So back in 1995, there was this massive storm that just battered Northern California.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that one.
Right, and it completely knocked out the power grid across Silicon Valley.
Wow. Total chaos, I imagine.
Completely. And at this tiny, relatively unknown startup at the time, the engineer didn't have some sleek, automatic, high-tech backup system in place.
Of course not. They never do in the beginning.
No, not at all. Instead, they had to scramble to rent this literal industrial diesel generator.
Oh my gosh.
And for 4 days straight, like 24/7, the team is taking turns standing out in the wind and the rain.
Just to keep the servers alive.
Exactly. They were manually pouring diesel fuel into this loud sputtering machine just to keep their servers from dying.
That is dedication. Or desperation.
A bit of both, honestly. They were literally looking at each other, totally exhausted, and joking, how many pages to the gallon are we getting today?
That's hilarious. Wait, who was the company?
That scrappy, flailing team was Yahoo.
No way. Yahoo.
Yeah, Yahoo. And welcome to today's Deep Dive, by the way.
Glad to be here.
So we are constantly fed this beautiful, polished fairy tale about business success. You know the one.
Oh, absolutely. The whole two unrecognized geniuses sitting in a pristine garage.
Exactly. They have this sudden eureka moment. They sketch out a flawless business plan on a napkin, and then they launch a perfect product.
And then just ride off into a sunset of billions. Yeah, it's a great story.
It's a great story, but today our mission for you, the listener, is to completely dismantle that fairy tale. We are taking a sledgehammer to the myth of the flawless startup.
I love it.
We're replacing it with the gritty, absurd reality of what it actually takes to build something great. And to do that, we are analyzing excerpts from Guy Kawasaki's book.
Right. Reality Check. The irreverent guide to outsmarting, outmanaging, and outmarketing your competition.
That's the one.
Kawasaki brings this highly specific, unvarnished perspective. I mean, he was deep in the trenches marketing the original Macintosh for Apple back in 1984.
Which is legendary in itself.
Yeah, and then he later transitioned into a venture capitalist. So he has watched the entire life cycle of hundreds of companies from the inside.
He's seen the good, the bad, and the really ugly.
Exactly. He's witnessed this vast chasm between what founders say happened in their memoirs and what actually happened in the boardroom.
Well, the tone of this deep dive is set immediately by the book's foreword, which is just hilarious because it's written by fake Steve Jobs.
Oh, right. Daniel Lyons' satirical persona.
Yeah, the tech writer. And fake Steve completely roasts Guy Kawasaki right out of the gate.
It is brutal.
It really is. He claims Kawasaki only worked at Apple for 15 minutes and that his only real legacy was a habit of cutting the cafeteria line.
Ouch.
And he even blames Kawasaki for creating this terrifying army of freako Apple cooks who constantly steal his license plates.
I mean, you really don't usually see a business book open with the author being called a total freak by the person writing the introduction.
No, you do not.
But what's fascinating here is why Kawasaki chose to start the book by undermining his own authority, and why he wrote this guide in the first place.
Right. Why lean into the roast?
Because when entrepreneurs pitch investors or advisors, they are usually fed what Kawasaki calls polite, feel-good peblum.
Like, oh, that's a very interesting idea. Let me get back to you.
Exactly. People will nod and say that rather than telling the founder that their financial projections are just entirely disconnected from reality.
They don't want to be the bad guy.
Right. So he wrote this to deliver the harsh truth. The core thesis across all our sources today is that whether you are in a tiny startup or buried deep inside a massive corporation, success requires embracing the mess.
Embracing the mess. I like that.
Yeah.
So let's look at the actual origins of companies we all think of as visionary pioneers. Because reality is way less about those pure eureka moments and much more about flailing around and getting incredibly lucky.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, we think of Flickr as this massive, intentional photo-sharing platform.
Right. It was huge.
But it originally started as a drag-and-drop instant messaging feature for a web-based game.
A game.
Yeah, it wasn't even the core product. It was just a feature.
See, that's wild.
Right.
And the founders of the site, hot or not, faced a similarly chaotic beginning.
Oh, I remember that site. What happened there?
Well, when they first launched, they suddenly realized they needed moderators to filter the massive influx of user-uploaded photos.
Which makes sense.
Right, but the founder, in a panic, hired his retired parents to moderate the platform.
Oh, no. Please tell me that didn't go where I think it's going.
It did. After a few days, he had to go to his co-founder and confess that he had to fire his own parents
Why?
because they were spending all day looking at explicit content.
Oh my God. That is amazing. But okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because I am struggling with the logic here a bit.
Sure, what's the issue?
If starting a business is really this chaotic and relies so heavily on pivoting and flailing and just stumbling into a lucky break like Flickr did, shouldn't investors absolutely bypass rookies? I mean, in any other industry, you bet on a proven track record. Shouldn't venture capitalists only bet on serial entrepreneurs who have successfully navigated this chaos before?
I mean, it seems entirely logical to want a steady hand at the wheel, and that is a massive trap in places like Silicon Valley.
Really, a trap.
Yeah. Capital allocators crave the illusion of safety, so they throw money at proven teams. But Kawasaki thoroughly debunks the serial entrepreneur myth.
How so?
Well, if you look at the truly world-changing companies, the Apples, Microsofts, Googles, and YouTubes,
Yeah.
they are almost universally started by unproven, inexperienced people. Serial founders actually fail at a staggering rate, and the psychology behind that failure is really predictable.
Wait, really? Is it just arrogance? Like, do they get a big ego and just stop listening to people?
Arrogance definitely plays a role, but the underlying mechanism is much more insidious. First, serial entrepreneurs routinely confuse causation with correlation.
Okay, meaning what exactly?
Meaning, their initial massive success might have been due to a highly specific set of environmental factors, like blind luck, a sudden shift in technology, or just hitting the market at the exact right microsecond.
Right.
But human psychology dictates that they internalize that success as the result of their own sheer, unadulterated genius.
Oh, I see. They think they're invincible.
Exactly. They start believing they can bend any market to their will.
So they basically try to replicate a magic trick without realizing the stage has completely changed.
And they use the exact same props.
Right.
They rely on the exact same outdated methods, the same marketing playbooks, and they hire the exact same group of buddies they used the first time.
Even if the new market needs a totally different approach.
Yes. But the most fatal flaw is the lack of hunger.
Ah, the hunger.
Yeah. When a founder is operating out of a garage, facing imminent financial ruin, their survival instincts force them to adapt.
Because they literally have no other choice.
Yep. Right. But when that same founder already owns a 5,000 square foot house in Palo Alto and drives a luxury car, they are working for self-actualization. They're working for fun.
That's a huge difference.
No one had to ask if they were hungry the first time. Plus, because they carry the label of proven visionary, their team is terrified to push back on their bad ideas, so the market doesn't smack them around enough until it's just too late.
Wow. Then who actually survives this? Because if the proven founders are blinded by their own past success, what specific trait allows a flailing rookie to build something real instead of just going bankrupt?
Kawasaki points to the psychological framework of Dr. Philip Zimbardo,
Okay.
specifically his concept of the banality of heroism. Zimbardo argues that heroic acts, whether in society or in building a paradigm-shifting company, they're not performed by mythical superheroes.
Who are they performed by then?
They are done by ordinary, often flawed people who cultivate a heroic imagination.
Heroic imagination. What does that mean in a business context?
In business, a heroic imagination means maintaining hypervigilance for opportunities that everyone else ignores. It means refusing to fear conflict because you have taken a definitive stand on how the future should look.
Yeah, I guess most people see a broken industry. They complain about it for a few minutes, and then they rationalize their own inaction by saying, well, that's just the way it is.
Exactly.
The heroic imagination forces you to actually envision the alternative and take the terrifying step of trying to build it.
Right. A heroic imagination doesn't allow you to settle for the status quo. You act even when you are entirely unproven.
But okay, a heroic imagination might get you through the initial decision to jump off the cliff.
Right.
Right.
Sure.
But adrenaline eventually wears off. Let's say you've survived the early floundering phase. The initial excitement is gone. How do these unproven founders survive the actual day-to-day reality when the honeymoon phase ends?
That is a great question. The sources feature a brilliant guest chapter by Glenn Kelman.
The CEO of Redfin, right?
Yes. And he strips away all the glamour and examines the brutal psychology of the daily grind. Kelman points out that in modern business culture, visible hard work has somehow gone out of fashion.
Everyone wants it to look easy.
Exactly. Startups want to project this illusion of frictionless, effortless scaling. But behind the curtain, building a company is an exercise in enduring continuous doubt.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. You are mortified by your own shortcomings, and you are surrounded by people who are highly intense and deeply weird.
He actually describes startups as freak catchers, right?
Yes. Freak catchers.
I mean, think about the psychology required to leave a comfortable, predictable corporate job with a 401k to go work at a damp basement for equity that might be totally worthless.
You have to be a little crazy.
You have to be fundamentally unhappy with the way the world currently operates. You have to be slightly unrealistic. And that inherently attracts a motley crew of oddballs, rebels, and true believers who will argue passionately over the tiniest detail because they just care so deeply.
And managing that kind of intense, volatile passion is necessary because the actual work is slow and grueling. Kelman emphasizes this concept of making haste slowly.
Making haste slowly.
Yeah. Startups constantly delude themselves into thinking they can shortcut the development process with some new paradigm or framework. But good code simply takes time to write.
There are no shortcuts.
None. The reality is that whatever you rush to build today, you will inevitably have to tear down and rebuild for version 2.0 or 3.0. There is no shortcut to elegant design or a truly stable product.
But the mythology tells us the visionary CEO always knows exactly what to do, charting the course with unwavering certainty.
Oh, Kelman completely shatters that. He notes that fearless leaders are actually terrified behind closed doors.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he shares a story of a CEO running a highly funded, promising startup who would anonymously post on Facebook asking his friends if his strategic ideas were actually any good.
Because he had no idea what he was doing.
Because he was flying completely blind. That vulnerability is the truth of the process. When Steve Ballmer was asked the secret to Microsoft's historic dominance, he didn't cite a magical strategy or unparalleled genius.
What did you say?
He said it was hard work.
5 hards.
5 hards. If you do not have a massive structural competitive advantage, and almost no one does in the beginning, your only viable strategy is to outwork your competition until they break.
Man. Well, here's where it gets really interesting. Kelman uses this phenomenal historical analogy to describe the psychology of a growing startup team.
Oh, the monastery analogy. I love this.
Yes, he compares them to a medieval monastery. So back in the late 7th century, things were pretty grim in the world. It was the Dark Ages.
Very grim.
But by the 8th century, you have this monk, the Venerable Bede, writing these long, bitter complaints that the current generation of monks has lost the intense, pure fervor of the 7th century monks.
So even in the darkest of the Dark Ages.
Yes, people were incredibly nostalgic for the earlier Dark Ages.
It captures the exact psychological loop of a growing company perfectly.
It really does. In the early days, when everyone is crammed in a single room, freezing, eating instant ramen, all they talk about is how great it will be when they finally launch, get funding, and hire more people.
Right.
But the second they actually achieve a modicum of success and move into a real office, human nature kicks in. They immediately start romanticizing the past.
Oh, absolutely.
They become convinced that the pure, unfiltered essence of the company has been lost, and they miss the days when they were suffering together in the basement.
Psychoanalyst Edmund Berger defined this as the megalomaniac pleasure of creation.
Megalomaniac pleasure. That's quite a term.
It is. We assume that workplace happiness comes from a breezy, low-stress environment where everything executes flawlessly. But Berger argues the opposite for creators. That profound elation, that megalomaniac pleasure, is forged in the exact experiences we claim to hate in the moment. It is the endless tinkering, the bitter arguments over tiny design flaws, the wholesale reworking of a broken product at 2 a.m., and those intense spasms of absolute self-loathing when a launch fails. The suffering isn't an obstacle to the creation. The suffering is the crucible that gives the creation its meaning.
So you can't just tolerate the brutal process of building. You have to find a twisted kind of joy in the struggle itself.
Exactly.
But, this megalomaniac pleasure doesn't only happen in a freezing garage. Some of you listening to this right now might be trapped inside a massive corporate bureaucracy or working as a researcher in a university lab.
Right. Totally different environment.
Is it easier to innovate when you have a corporate credit card, an HR department, and existing infrastructure behind you?
The sources actually suggest it is often significantly harder. Kawasaki dedicates a substantial section to entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah, the art of operating like an entrepreneur while buried inside an established company. You might have access to capital, but you are actively fighting a war against ingrained, inbred, and highly risk-averse management.
You're a threat.
You are a threat to the status quo from the inside.
And the survival rules for an entrepreneur are completely counterintuitive. Like, the first rule is that you must be willing to kill the cash cows.
Yes.
If your company relies on a highly profitable legacy product, your job is to invent the technology that makes it entirely obsolete.
Apple is the classic example here.
Right. The Macintosh team had to build a machine that would cannibalize the incredibly profitable Apple II. Because if you hesitate trying to milk that cash cow forever to protect your quarterly bonuses, an external startup in a garage is going to slaughter it for you anyway.
Exactly. And to do that, an entrepreneur has to actively reboot their brain.
Meaning?
You must deliberately ignore all the standard corporate practices that made your parent company successful in the past.
Like what?
Like the endless focus groups, the strict demands for backward compatibility, the multi-layered approval cycles. Those are mechanisms designed specifically to protect the past, not to invent the future.
And to protect yourself from those mechanisms, Kawasaki gives this amazing piece of advice. You need to find a separate, deeply crappy building to work in.
The crappy building rule.
Yes. You have to literally, physically remove your team from the main headquarters. You want to be close enough to the main building to sneak in and steal office supplies, but far enough away that upper management isn't wandering past your desks every day.
Right.
And it is vital that the building is terrible. No $700 Herman Miller Aeron chairs. No ergonomic luxury.
There is a psychological strategy behind that crappy building rule. Ergonomic luxury and polished glass offices communicate stability and comfort. They pacify the team.
Which you don't want.
No, you don't. When you are in a terrible basement with flickering lights, it creates a siege mentality. It's your rogue team of pirates against the polished, out-of-touch executives upstairs.
That makes total sense.
That shared hardship artificially manufactures the tribal bonding and hunger of a garage startup, even if you are funded by a Fortune 500 company.
You also have to operate completely under the radar, right? Seek forgiveness, never permission. The moment you pop up on the corporate radar, what Kawasaki calls the status quo preserving bean counters will descend on you.
Oh, they will?
You have to hoard data to defend every penny you spent because they will try to shut you down for building something that the current customers aren't even asking for yet. It sounds less like business management and more like running a covert rebel base hiding from the evil empire.
Well, the empire always wants to protect its current borders, and we see this exact same tension in the world of academic commercialization, too.
Oh, like when a university or a research lab attempts to spin off a scientific breakthrough into a viable business.
Exactly.
Universities are notorious for suffocating innovation because they demand completely irrational terms when licensing their tech. The sources detail how a university might demand 80% ownership of the new startup, plus a 50% royalty rate on all future revenues.
Which just kills the business before it starts.
Right. And they try to micromanage the business model, restricting the markets you're allowed to sell to. There's a wild historical example involving the inventor of Novocaine.
Oh, this one is crazy.
It is. He was a scientist who dictated that his invention could only be used by prestigious medical doctors for major surgeries. He actively refused to let mere dentists use Novocaine for tooth extractions.
Which is insane because that's what we all know it for.
Right. But he felt his brilliant discovery was far too important for something as common as dentistry.
See, this happens because academic institutions view a patent or a technological breakthrough as a finished, gleaming prize to be fiercely guarded.
Not a starting point.
Exactly. They suffer from immense institutional risk aversion and academic ego. They often refuse to let the actual scientists who invented the technology leave the university to join the new company, assuming their contribution is done the moment they hand over a binder of research findings.
So what does this all mean for the listener? Are patents and brilliant research findings basically worthless if you don't have the right people to push them into the real world?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, a patent is merely a piece of paper. Kawasaki states bluntly that patents are wonderful for impressing your parents, but they are not products.
Right.
Customers do not open their wallets to buy patents. They buy products that solve their daily frustrations. The market does not care if a technology took 10 years and $100 million of government grant money to develop in a pristine lab. The market only cares if it works.
There's a brutal quote in the text about this. Those who can do. those who can't license.
Yeah, that cuts deep.
Huh.
But it's true. Commercializing technology requires a massive shift in mindset. The original scientists have to leave their academic egos at the door.
That's hard to do.
Very hard. If they join the startup, they must prioritize generating revenue and pleasing uneducated customers over receiving acclaim from their peers in prestigious scientific journals.
Yeah.
And most painfully, they have to accept shipping a product that is merely good enough for the market today, rather than delaying the launch for 5 years to achieve the best possible perfect science.
Yeah. So whether you are huddled in the mythical Silicon Valley garage, hiding in the crappy corporate basement, plotting a rebellion, or trying to drag a scientific breakthrough out of an ivory tower lab, success entirely comes down to the team.
Always.
You have a motley crew of freaks, true believers, and former academics. How do you actually unite them around a single coherent vision?
Well, the sources are unequivocal on this one. You absolutely do not use a mission statement.
Oh, the dreaded corporate mission statement.
We've all been there.
Anyone who has worked in a mid-sized company has suffered through this trauma. You get dragged to an awful team building offsite at a Marriott conference room.
Oh, the worst.
You do trust falls into the arms of the accounting department, and then you spend 8 hours staring at a whiteboard while 60 different people demand to add their specific departmental buzzword. Always synergy. You end up with a 50-word, unreadable salad of corporate jargon about synergizing cross-platform paradigms that no human being could ever memorize, let alone believe.
Right. And it fails because cognitive load prevents a 50-word paragraph from being useful in a moment of crisis. Kawasaki suggests incinerating the mission statement entirely and replacing it with a mantra.
All mantra.
A mantra is exceptionally brief, just 3 or 4 words. It succinctly explains the fundamental reason your organization exists.
And 3 or 4 words acts as an immediate decision-making filter. Kawasaki uses Wendy's as an example here.
Great example.
Their mantra isn't a paragraph about agricultural supply chain leverages. It is simply healthy fast food. That's it.
Right.
If an employee comes up with a new menu item, they don't need to consult a binder. They just ask, is it healthy and is it fast? It tells everyone exactly what the goal is.
A mantra cuts through the noise and provides total clarity. When you are navigating the chaotic, constantly shifting reality of starting something new, clarity is your most valuable asset.
Absolutely. So let's summarize the vital takeaways from Kawasaki's reality check. If you are building something, you must embrace the chaotic flounder. Stop waiting for the flawless business plan to materialize. Just start building and figuring it out as things break.
Yes.
Welcome the oddballs, the freaks, and the people who are fundamentally unhappy with the status quo because they are the only ones passionate enough to endure the grueling, unglamorous work.
That is so true.
If you are operating inside a big company, be prepared to courageously kill your own cash cows before a competitor does it for you. And whatever you do, ditch the 50-word mission statement for a sharp 3-word mantra.
You know, this raises an important question for you, the listener, to consider. We spent this time analyzing how the megalomaniac pleasure of creation and the necessity of struggle apply to building a business. But consider how this mechanism applies to the rest of your life.
Oh, that's interesting.
We currently live in a culture obsessed with frictionless convenience, right?
Yeah.
We want our food delivered instantly, our entertainment algorithmic, and our hobbies optimized. If you find that your personal goals or passion projects feel a bit hollow or unfulfilling right now, ask yourself, have you engineered all the struggle out of them? If the true joy of creation only emerges from the tinkering, the frustration, and the spasms of self-doubt, are you robbing yourself of that megalomaniac pleasure by taking the easy, proven route?
Man, that's a powerful thought. The fairy tale of effortless success might be clean and comfortable, but the messy, floundering reality is where the actual magic happens. Stop seeking the frictionless path and start embracing the struggle. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.